China's recent space missions to the dark side of the moon have become one of the most significant developments in space exploration in recent decades. This is not just another step in space exploration. It is a real breakthrough that can reshape the global energy architecture and the geopolitical landscape. For a long time, the moon was perceived as a studied and exhausted object, a gray satellite of the Earth, whose secrets and possibilities were considered limited. However, the discovery of huge reserves of helium-3, new information about the composition of the lunar soil, as well as the amazing technical achievements of the Chinese space program have brought the question of who will control the closest space object to Earth to the fore. The projects implemented by China demonstrate not only scientific interest, but also strategic thinking. The creation of bases and infrastructure on the moon, the extraction of rare resources, and the planning of a powerful energy base that can determine the future of humanity. This large-scale project is the result of many years of efforts by the largest scientific centers, government funding, and technological innovations. China has managed to combine science, technology, economics, and international politics in one grandiose enterprise, which sharply distinguishes it from other countries. From the global economic crisis, problems with the energy and ecology of the Earth, to the search for new horizons for human civilization, all these issues are intertwined against the background of lunar discoveries. After all, the moon is not just a celestial body, but a potential source of almost inexhaustible energy and strategic advantage. In addition, exploring the dark side of the moon opens up space exploration opportunities that are inaccessible from Earth due to radio interference and solar radiation. Thus, China's discoveries on the far side of the moon, hidden from human eyes, are one of the key turning points in the history of space exploration. This process not only symbolizes technological progress, but also reflects the forces of political and economic interests that will influence the development of mankind in the coming decades. Let us recall that during the era of the space race, the USA and the USSR actively explored the moon, conducting many expeditions and discovering its secrets. The Apollo program gave humanity its first steps on the surface of the Earth's satellite, and the Soviet Luna series returned important samples and data to Earth. However, after the 1970s, interest in the moon waned significantly. It seemed that it was possible to study the lunar surface and the satellite's capabilities, and humanity turned its attention to distant worlds such as Mars, the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, as well as the vast expanses of space. It was a period of dreaming about colonies on Mars and searching for life on exoplanets. The moon, for its part, was perceived as a studied stage, a past milestone. Many missions, plans, and commercial projects were made specifically for deep space. Many believed that the economic benefits and technological meaning of lunar exploration were limited and could not provide real breakthroughs. However, it was at this time that China began planning a strategic comeback. The Asian country is deeply aware of its technological lag and the need for energy and resource independence. National scientific communities have built an analytical strategy. In order to make a powerful technological breakthrough, it is necessary to give priority to the moon as the nearest and relatively accessible space object. While the main attention of the global scientific community was focused on developing projects for Mars and other planets, Chinese engineers and scientists methodically and consistently developed programs for exploring the moon. The comparative advantages are obvious. The flight time is only 3 days, and the delivery of goods and people is much easier and cheaper than to Mars, where it takes months and billions of dollars. Entering the lunar program meant not only the development of the territory, but also the creation of basic technologies for resource extraction, life support, and base development. With determination and consistency, China was able to make the moon its next priority in the first decade of the 21st century. A key stage in China's return to an active lunar program is associated with the Chang'e series of spacecraft, named after the moon goddess in Chinese mythology. The first mission, Chang'e-1, launched in 2007, produced a real technological and scientific breakthrough. The device did not just fly around the satellite, but created detailed maps of the lunar surface, which became the basis for all subsequent missions. One of the main scientific achievements made at this stage is the detection of significant amounts of helium-3 in the lunar soil. This isotope is a unique fuel for the thermonuclear energy of the future. Helium-3, which differs from other types of nuclear fuel, does not produce neutron radiation and radioactive waste, which increases the safety and efficiency of reactors. For comparison, 1 kilogram of helium-3 is capable of generating energy equivalent to 10,000 tons of coal without polluting the environment. According to scientists, this potential, with lunar reserves, will last for thousands of years. The very fact of the availability and accessibility of this resource on the Moon forms new foundations for rethinking global energy. The next mission, Chang'e 2, launched in 2010, was able to analyze the data in more detail, paying special attention to the distribution of rare elements. Using a camera with a resolution of up to 1 meter, it was even possible to see the footprints of the Apollo astronauts and equipment left by the Americans decades ago. Chang'e 3 and its U-2 lunar rover will be a real breakthrough. The Chinese spacecraft made the first soft landing on the Moon in 37 years and demonstrated the longevity and accuracy of its instruments. The robot machine provided us with a lot of new data, working on a radioisotope power plant, a technology that allows not only to power devices during the day, but also to survive harsh, moonlit nights. The entire range of technologies, from navigation to spectrometers and radars, was unique and allowed us to understand not only the chemical composition of the Moon, but also to find out the structure and minerals hidden under the surface. In fact, the Chang'e mission series sets a new vector for the development of the Earth's satellite, providing a technological base that is difficult to overestimate. One of the most impressive achievements of the Chinese space program was the successful soft landing of the Chang'e 4 spacecraft on the far side of the Moon on January 3, 2019, which was the first such event in the history of mankind. The far side of the Moon remained a mystery for a long time, because due to the gravitational orientation of the satellite, it is always hidden from observation from Earth. Therefore, for research and radio communication, a special relay satellite, Kuqiao, Sorochi Bridge, was needed, located at a unique L2 Lagrange point, where the gravitational forces of the Earth and the Moon create a stable position. This made it possible to provide an almost variable and continuous connection between the ground and the operation of the device on the reverse side. This moment was not only a technical, but also a symbolic achievement that opened access to previously inaccessible geological and scientific sites. The Von Karman crater was chosen, which is part of the giant South Pole Aitken Basin, one of the largest impact craters in the solar system, formed about 4 billion years ago. Studies have shown that the far side of the Moon contains significantly more rare and valuable elements than the visible side. For example, the concentration of titanium, iron, and rare earth metals in the soil turned out to be noticeably higher. In addition to the amazing results of the analysis, which confirmed the data on helium-3, Chang'e 4, together with the U-2 lunar rover, began a progressive study of the lunar surface. These discoveries are steadily revealing the possibilities of using the region for base construction and resource extraction. In addition, the Kuqiao repeater satellite is equipped with unique radio telescope equipment. This creates an opportunity to explore deep space, in particular the low-frequency range of radio waves, which on Earth are almost completely absorbed by the atmosphere and technological interference. In fact, China has created a space radio observatory capable of expanding the horizons of our understanding of the universe. Thus, the Chang'e 4 mission has become not only a research peak, but also the foundation for future exploration of the dark side of the Moon and further strategic initiatives. The incredible discovery, which resulted from the use of radar instruments and analysis of gravitational anomalies, is the identification of huge lava tubes hiding under the far side of the Moon. Lava tubes are natural tunnels created billions of years ago during a period of volcanic activity, when lava flows flowed under a thin, cooled crust, burning deep channels, which then emptied, maintaining a stable structure. On Earth, similar pipes are found in Hawaii and Iceland, but on the Moon, they can be much larger and more durable. Measurements show that some pipes are up to 2 kilometers wide, more than 50 kilometers long, and the ceiling height can reach 300 meters, comparable to a 100-story skyscraper. These unique natural structures are ideal for hosting bases and large underground complexes. What makes these lava tubes especially valuable is their conditions. They protect against radioactive and cosmic radiation and allow you to keep the temperature around a comfortable 17 degrees Celsius. Unlike the open surface of the Moon with its extreme temperature fluctuations and radiation, conditions can be created inside the tubes that are as close as possible to those on Earth. Also, such natural bunkers are protected from meteor impacts, which additionally guarantees the safety of the inhabitants. For the first time, the Japanese orbital probe Selene signaled the existence of more than 200 entrances to such pipes from the surface, and NASA's LRO spacecraft confirmed their presence by revealing gravitational anomalies. This has become a real treasure for the PRC. They have found not just an area for resource extraction, but ready-made caves for housing and scientific facilities, which will significantly reduce the cost of building and protecting lunar bases. Chinese engineers are already working on developing methods for sealing lava tubes and creating an autonomous atmosphere and microclimate. The latest calculations show that while maintaining ground pressure in such a pipe, the pressure forces on the walls will be 6 times less, which will facilitate the construction and reduce the risks to the structure. Advanced 3D printing technologies from local lunar regolith will make it possible to build residential modules and even farms right inside these underground tunnels. Of course, the creation of such cities will require complex engineering solutions, but the natural foundation has already been created. Thus, these natural formations open the door to the creation of habitable, protected, and scalable lunar cities, which is the second resource breakthrough after helium-3. The discovery of vast reserves of helium-3 and huge natural lava tubes, as well as the wealth of rare metals and minerals on the far side of the Moon, creates a new reality for the global economy and geopolitics. Helium-3 is the key to creating the fusion reactors of the future, the cleanest and most powerful energy source that will revolutionize the energy industry. Energy generation will be cheap, practically waste-free and endless for hundreds and thousands of years. Such a revolution will change not only the energy sector, but also industry, transport, agriculture, and the service sector due to access to cheap energy. China, with these resources first, can become an energy superpower. The ability to provide electricity at a cost that is not comparable to traditional sources will provide a significant economic advantage in the international arena. Lava tubes will make it possible to create not only bases, but also underground cities for tens of thousands of people to live in, research centers and industrial complexes with full protection from space threats. Let's add to this the richest deposits of titanium, rare earth metals, platinum, iridium, and other critical elements, the cost of which can reach several $1,000s per gram. These elements strengthen China's position in the field of high technology, microprocessors, electronics, and medicine. The location of the Moon near the Earth and the possibility of efficient flights will make it possible to build a large-scale space infrastructure around it for the extraction, storage, processing of resources, and launching further expeditions to the solar system. China is already investing huge sums in the development of infrastructure on the Moon, promising technologies for mining, processing, and construction on site. Due to 3D printing technologies from local materials and the creation of power plants based on helium-3, it will be possible to reduce dependence on delivery from Earth, which will radically increase the stability and autonomy of lunar bases. Thus, the possession of the Moon's resources will be a decisive factor for economic and strategic advantage in the global arena. While China is methodically carrying out successive expeditions and building the infrastructure of the lunar base, the traditional space powers are facing many problems and protracted delays. The United States, despite huge cash injections into the Artemis program, is experiencing difficulties with the latest technologies, from the SLS heavy rocket to landing modules and Orion manned spacecraft. Deadlines are repeatedly postponed, and the cost of launching one device reaches several $billion, which creates financial and organizational pressure. Private companies, although demonstrating their technical potential, are still focused mainly on Martian missions, without paying due attention to the lunar program. Elon Musk and SpaceX are clearly interested primarily in Mars, and the moon seems boring and less promising. European countries, Japan and Russia, are experiencing a strange division between joint projects with the Americans and their own initiatives. Europe is trying to maintain its independence in space, but practically does not implement major independent lunar projects. Due to political factors, Russia is increasingly integrating with China, which gives Beijing a secondary advantage. This situation is reflected in international relations. China is working on its own space strategy, inviting individual countries to cooperate, creating an alternative bloc in space. Russia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Iran find themselves in the zone of Chinese influence, which increases competition with Western space coalitions. International space law remains vague. The 1967 treaty prohibits claims to national sovereignty over celestial bodies, but does not specify the regulations governing resource extraction and base construction. At the same time, the United States passed a law allowing private companies to own mining in space. China actually operates on the principle of whoever comes first owns, which can create legal and political friction on a global scale. Controlling the moon's resources opens up a whole new dimension of geopolitics and security. The moon is becoming not just an object of research, but a strategic springboard, giving a decisive advantage on a planetary scale. On the one hand, having a source of clean energy in the form of helium-3 will rebalance the Earth's energy markets, reduce dependence on oil, gas, and coal, and accelerate the transition to environmentally friendly development. On the other hand, the deployment of infrastructure and equipment on the moon will open up unique opportunities for observing the Earth and space, from environmental monitoring to monitoring the movement of all objects and means of communication. This has the potential for both defense and strategic dominance. In the military sphere, despite the ban on the deployment of weapons of mass destruction in space, many space surveillance and possible defense technologies are already under development. Whoever controls the space of the moon gets the upper hand in warning and controlling potential threats. China is demonstrating an extremely subtle and balanced approach, offering international cooperation, but on its own terms and under control. At the same time, work is underway to create a powerful base on the moon, which will become a base for interplanetary missions, including trips to asteroids and Mars. The prospects opening up with the exploration of the moon will allow humanity to make a qualitative leap in development. An economy based on helium-3 energy will be able to destroy the old paradigms of cost and environmental impact. Chinese enterprises operating on virtually free and environmentally friendly energy will be able to set unrealistic standards of convenience, speed, and production efficiency by current standards. This will affect all areas, from electronics and transportation to science and innovation. The development of artificial intelligence, which requires the most powerful computing resources, will be especially significant. China, which has gained an advantage in energy, will be able to accelerate the development of AI and use it to solve complex problems both in space and on Earth. Technologies for creating and extracting water from lunar ice, as well as producing metals from regolith, will make it possible to fully autonomize lunar bases, as well as create new materials that are inaccessible in terrestrial conditions. The development of robots capable of moving in difficult lunar conditions, such as jumping robots, expands the possibilities of exploring and developing the territory. They will help you explore even the most inaccessible areas, including inside lava tubes. All these efforts are in line with China's long-term strategy to turn the moon into a space base, a starting point for expeditions to asteroids and distant planets. An era is coming when the exploration of the nearest space object becomes a key factor not only in scientific progress, but also in world politics and economics. The Chinese program has managed to take a leading position thanks to purposeful efforts, government funding, and skillful use of scientific achievements. History teaches that control over key resources determines the balance of power in the world, whether it's spices, oil, technology, or the internet. Today, a new resource battle is underway for helium-3, rare metals, and a strategic position on the moon. In the coming decades, we are likely to witness a transformation of the world's infrastructure. There will be sustainable lunar bases with a permanent human presence, innovative industries, and a new generation of energy. China is winning this race today, and the world must take this fact into account in shaping new global policies and space strategies so as not to end up in the role of observers or dependent partners. History has already recorded these years as a fundamental turning point in space exploration, and their place in the architecture of humanity's future will depend on how quickly other countries can adapt to new realities.